All right, this is lesson 5.2, part 1. In this lesson, we'll be learning how to write linear equations in point-slope form. If you remember in the last lesson, we were talking about slope-intercept form. In this lesson, we're going to talk about a different form, point-slope form. Point-slope form looks like this. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. So you can see here the y and the x in black are just going to stay that way. They're just going to stay y and stay x. But the y sub 1, the m, and the x sub 1, they're green and blue, those are going to be filled in with values, with our constant numbers, whatever our slope is and whatever the point is that we're given or that we're working with. So this is just another form in which we write a linear equation, okay, like slope-intercept form. It's just one way to write a linear equation. It's one way to look at it. And this is just a different way. And so in this one, instead of using the slope and the y-intercept, we're going to use the slope and one of the points that's on that line. In order to write an equation in point-slope form, we can follow a few simple steps. We'll first just label the point that's given to us as x sub 1 and y sub 1. That just helps us remember, okay, this is our x value and this is our y value, to help us remember where that's going to go. And then we're going to write the point-slope form, y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Okay, that's something that you always want to keep in front of you so you remember what the form is, because you're just going to fill in those values. And then you'll substitute in the point and the slope. In this first part of the lesson, you'll be given the point and you'll be given the slope, so you won't have to be solving for the slope on these or finding it. So you'll plug those into the point-slope form and then you'll just simplify. Okay. Here's an example of a type of problem you're going to be looking at where you're writing in point-slope form. This one you're given that the line is passing through the point negative 6, 1 and has a slope of 2/3, 2 over 3. And so we have our point-slope form here. Okay. If we could label our point as x sub 1 and y sub 1. And then we plug that into the point-slope form where the 1, the y, goes here for y sub 1. The x sub 1 is negative 6. And then our m, our slope, is 2/3. And then we're going to simplify. Okay, and that involves changing this x minus negative 6 to x plus 6. And just making sure that we are taking care of our negatives there and simplifying them as much as we can. All right, so let's look at some examples of how to write linear equations in point-slope form. Remember, this is our point-slope form, y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. And don't forget, filling in these forms, we're just taking out the values that we don't need. So like y sub 1, m, and x sub 1, those are going to be our constant values. So we're going to take those out and put in the numbers that go in those places. So it's just the form looks the same as it does right here, except this value, and this value are all going to be numbers, okay, instead of those variables. And also remember that x sub 1, y sub 1, the values that go here come from the point that is given to us, the point on the line. So let's look at one example. Using this slope and point, we're going to write the equation, write this linear equation in point-slope form. So we have a point at 2, 7 and a slope at negative 4. So what we're describing with this equation is a line that has a slope of negative 4 and it passes through the point 2, 7. And passes through the point 2, 7. And so let's first start by labeling our points. Our point here is x sub 1 and y sub 1. Okay. X sub 1, y sub 1, that's our point here. And then this is our slope, okay, if we want to remember that. That's what the m is in our linear equation. So our point-slope form is y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. You would only need to write that once, right, maybe at the top of your paper, just to remember that, but just want to put that in front of you. So that's our point-slope form. So we're going to substitute in the point and the slope, okay, substitute in the point and the slope. So the y, the minus, the equal, this x and the minus, and the parentheses are all going to stay the same, right? So all I've done is taken out the y sub 1, the m, and the x sub 1, and now I'm going to put in the values. So here are the values for my points. So y sub 1 goes here, 7. X sub 1 goes here, 2. And our m value, negative 4, goes right there. So it's y minus 7 equals negative 4 times x minus 2. Okay? And that was our third step, substituting the point and the slope. And now we would simplify. Now in this case, we don't necessarily need to simplify because we're just trying to figure out how do we write this in point slope form. And so that is all we need to do. So this is going to be our answer here. Is y minus 7 equals negative 4 times x minus 2. So this is a different way of writing a linear equation, specifically in point slope form. Okay? Let's look at one more example. All right, so in this point, or this equation, we're going to pass through the point 4, negative 2, and the slope 3/4. Okay, let's first start by labeling our points, x sub 1, y sub 1, and then our slope is going to be our m. And we have our point slope form. Again, you don't necessarily need to write it every time, unless that helps you. But I just want you to see it again. So then we're going to substitute in the point and the slope. So y minus our y sub 1 is negative 2 is equal to our m 3/4 times x minus our x sub 1, 4. All right, so I put it into point slope form, and now I do need to simplify this because I have a minus and a minus here. Okay? I have a minus and negative number. So I'm going to simplify that to y plus 2 because minus and negative 2 is the same thing as plus 2. So that's equal to 3/4 times x minus 4. And now I can leave it like that. There's nothing else to simplify. And so that's my answer. And so that's how you're going to approach these problems, by plugging them into that point slope form and simplifying down. And this is what your final answer should look like, is something like this. Y plus or minus a number equals your m value, your slope, times x plus or minus a number.